Ford has a rich history in the automotive industry, covering almost every car segment available today. However, its muscle car and pony car history is one of the most iconic. The first ever Mustang was released in the 60s, and since then, Ford has developed countless iterations of the nameplate. Here are the fastest muscle cars in Ford's history. 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT. The late 1960s and early 1970s marked the golden age of muscle cars, with brands across the United States pushing boundaries. Ford's Falcon, particularly the 1973 XB GT model, stood out. Developed by Ford Australia, it boasted a 5.7-liter V8 engine, generating 300 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. While it was not available in the United States due to the Falcon's discontinuation there in 1970, it was a hit in Australia, offering strong competition in the muscle car scene with a top speed of 132 miles per hour. 1970, Ford Torino GT Cobra 429. Ford's Torino, another notable muscle car alongside the Mustang and Falcon, sported a distinct large boxy design. The 1970 Torino GT packed serious power, especially with its top engine option, the 7.0-liter Super Cobra Jet 429 V8, delivering 375 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. This enabled it to compete head-to-head with rivals like the Dodge Charger and Chevrolet Chevelle. With a top speed of 136 miles per hour, acceleration time of just 6.6 seconds, the Torino GT proved its prowess on the road. 1994 Ford Mustang GT SVT Cobra. Fast forward to the 1990s and Ford was still manufacturing some of the best muscle cars on the market, even if this decade does not have the same esteem as those before it. Stricter emissions and regulations prevented Ford from building powerhouses like the Torino GT, but it still managed to produce what is one of the more underappreciated Mustangs, the 1994 Mustang GT SVT Cobra. Powered by a 5-liter V8, pushing out 240 horsepower and 285 pound-feet of torque, the engine for the 1994 Mustang GT SVT Cobra is expectedly smaller than the prior Mustangs that Ford had produced. Despite this, the notably sporty SVT Cobra variant still manages a top speed of 137 miles per hour, making it just as capable despite having a smaller engine. 1987 Ford Mustang GT 5.0. The 1987 Ford Mustang was one of the most important years for the nameplate, with the Mustang receiving a major restyling which carried on until 1993, the last year for the Fox body generation. The 1987 Mustang GT, fitted with the same 5.0-liter V8 seen in the 1994 Mustang SVT Cobra, had all the performance to match its sporty yet aggressive exterior styling, putting out 225 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. These numbers may seem rather low in comparison to other Ford muscle cars on this list. However, due to the Fox body's lighter design, the 1987 Mustang GT 5.0 could still produce competitive speeds within the muscly car scene. The top speed of the 1987 Mustang GT 5.0 is an impressive 143 miles per hour, which paired with the 6.3 seconds it takes to reach 0 to 60 miles per hour, made this model a big improvement from the prior model year. 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 Super Snake. Only 3 years after the first ever Mustang was released, came a model that is still considered to be one of the greatest Mustangs of all time. In 1967, Ford worked closely with the legendary Carroll Shelby to create the Mustang Shelby GT500, a performance-focused version of the GT350. As well as the base GT500 models, a singular prototype model was developed named the Super Snake. Instead of the GT500's Police Interceptor 428 cubic inch V8, the GT500 Super Snake was fitted with a GT40 spec 427 cubic inch V8 that was said to produce 520 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. With a mighty top speed of 170 miles per hour, the GT500 Super Snake was at one point set to receive a limited production run of 50 examples, but was eventually deemed too expensive. 1966 Mercury Comet Cyclone GT. The Comet started off life as the Mercury version of the compact Ford Falcon, but in its third generation became a mid-size muscle car. Well, the ones with the Cyclone GT performance package were muscle cars anyway. Eventually, the Cyclone trim would morph into its own nameplate, but in 1966, it was the most kick-ass Comet you could buy. With a distinctive split-front grille and aggressive stance, it is the most muscle car-looking vehicle built by any company in the Ford family. It was also pretty fast, coming standard with a 390 cubic inch engine. Mercury only made 13,812 Cyclone GT hardtops in 1966, so it should be a relatively rare car. However, it has been tragically slept on, and fully restored examples can be found on Bring a Trailer for as little as $17,000. 1969 Ford Torino. Cobra 428 Ford introduced the Torino in 1968 as an upscale version of the Fairlane. But things went the opposite direction in 1969 with the Torino Cobra. Designed to be a no-frills muscle car to compete with the Plymouth Roadrunner, the Cobra traded in luxury for performance. With an original base price of $3,206, it was right there with a 383 equipped Roadrunner at $3,083. Performance was similar as well, with the Cobra being within tenths of seconds in 0 to 60 and quarter-mile times. A Roadrunner with a 426 Hemi is a different story. But Ford was trying to compete with Plymouth for buyers, not on a drag strip. 1966 Ford Galaxy 500 7-liter. The Galaxy 500 was Ford's version of a Chevy Impala, in that it was a full-size cruiser that was cool as a convertible and was eventually embraced by the lowrider community. When the GTO set off the classic muscle car era, Ford scrambled to bulk up their existing line of cars with muscular versions, and in 1966 came up with the Galaxy 500 7-liter. Yes, they misspelled liter, but they were probably going for a European Le Mans racing kind of thing. They were also going for something that would be a GTO killer, but according to Hemmings, they only moved around 11,000 of them in 1966. The good news is that these underappreciated muscle cars can be picked up relatively cheaply because lowriders do not like 428s for some reason. 1970 Mercury Cougar Eliminator. The 1970 Cougar Eliminator is the all-time greatest muscle car that not a lot of people know about. It was every bit as cool as a Plymouth Barracuda or Pontiac GTO Judge, and just as fast. The Cougar shared a platform with the Mustang, but was much more a raging bull than a galloping pony. Coming standard with a 302, all engine options were on the table all the way up to the 429. According to Ford Performance, only 2 Eliminators left the factory with a 429 under the hood. But there was nothing wrong with the 428. It is only 1 cubic inch of displacement smaller, and truth be told, they had about the same performance numbers. While we are on the subject of numbers, Mercury only made 4,517 of these amazing cars, so they make for great collectibles. If you found today's video informative, please show your support by giving us a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and turning on notifications for future updates. Let us know your opinions in the comments section below.